Warning, this video contains heavy subject matter and political themes. If that's not what you want, turn the video off now. I'm going to show a lot of contradictions and somewhat vile comments made by a certain YouTuber that do meander for the sake of full context. So, really get prepared or go now. That's your warning.
My apologies. Please switch their piece.
I've seen this one before.
The plan. Of course.
So people are canceling a lot of their Netflix subscriptions. This really isn't that big of a surprise. Again, I think this kind of stuff is very weird. And I think also, do parents really want to have that kind of stuff in kids' stories? I don't really think so. I think it's pretty obvious. And this is also another big issue is that, like, if I was a parent and I was watching this, I would be uncomfortable just for the sheer reason that it's very obvious that they're trying to push this idea onto very, very young people, onto kids. And it's like trying to teach kids trigonometry whenever they don't understand multiplication. I do think that there is a passing of responsibility to these social media companies parents are doing, and I think that it's unfair. If your kid is going on social media websites, that's probably the last thing that you need to be worried about that your kid's doing. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like whenever we were in middle school, we were going on all kinds of like weird porn sites and stuff like this in middle school. So like, you really think Facebook is corrosive? Like, come on, like, let's be honest. So it's like, and I guarantee you kids are doing that now. Absolutely. Because like, what do you think? Like, oh, they're different? Like, oh, wow. Like now they're not, come on. Today, we're going to look at some of the interesting users on, you would never believe it, Blue Sky. That's right. And I don't know how this keeps happening, but yesterday, after Charlie Kirk was brutally murdered, he was shot in the throat, bled out on stage in front of everybody, including his own family and his children. The number of people in the games industry who decided to go on to social media, particularly Blue Sky. A lot of these people, you have to understand that many of these people have already been run off of Twitter because there's a level of discourse and negativity that they can't really deal with. So the only place that they can really exist is on effectively a reservation like Blue Sky, where their opinions are protected and they're allowed to be vitriolic and nobody's allowed to tell them that they're wrong. Shoots her right here. Yeah, there it is. You see right there. Oh, wow. And then he shoots her. Gotcha, bitch. And then he shoots her a couple more times to finish her off. Absolutely rip fucking bozo. The only thing you have to do is crush them. You crush them completely. You never go, like, after you say, basically after you run one of them over, right? Or you shoot one of them for trying to run you over, then you victory lap around it and you send in more people and you do it even more. Basically, and even now, right, is you have a lot of people who are from the Middle East. They're not maybe politically aligned with the Middle East. They might not even really live in the Middle East anymore, but people blame any individual person for what, some terrorists did that live in the Middle East. And this is what happens. And I hope this does not happen again with Russians here. And I want to make sure that this is very clear. While I'm sure that there are a lot of Russians that do support Putin, these are people who are okay with the idea of the war. They say, fuck Ukraine, we hate Ukraine, let's bomb them. I'm sure there's plenty of Russians that are like that. However, please, guys, please do not go out and take your frustrations out on the Russian government, on some random fucking guy that lives in Russia. Please do not do that. Like, I've seen comments like that. I've seen negative shit like that towards, like, these different random-ass people. The fact is that it's the same as in the U.S. Do you think that I wanted them to bomb random fucking places in Syria and other kinds of countries? No, I didn't want that. If you want to consider a genocide as a systematic killing of a group of people, they have genocide built into Sharia law right now. So no, I'm not going to cry a fucking river when people who have genocide that's baked into their laws are getting genocided. I don't give a fuck. They're terrible people. It's not even a question. It's crazy that people don't see it that way. They'd be doing the same thing. And how much did they kill? As many as they can. They're not able to kill as many people as Israel because they don't have as many bombs and as many weapons. But if they did, they'd be doing the same thing. That's it. Just takes enough. That's right. These people are not your allies. They are not the same as us. They come from an inferior culture that is horrible. It kills people for their identity, and it is directly antithetical to everything Western values stand for, and it is an inferior culture in all ways. It is that simple. No, I don't feel bad for them. I don't feel sorry for them. I don't care. I don't support them.
Honey, tell me, what is it like to live without shame of any kind? Is it a good feeling?
Yeah, it is.
You know what I'm really sick of? Peacocks. No, not the birds, those are pretty majestic. I'm talking about the people that will go into a crowded room and demand people look at them as whatever they are pretending to be that day. You know, like how Andrew Tate pretended to be a tough guy boxer for years, putting on plays of him fighting 60 guys in a row, only to get his butt handed to him by a reality star in a real fight. Then he spends the next few weeks making excuses for that loss because he has to keep looking like that majestic, tough bird he painted himself as. And the whole process here is infuriating. First, Tate really didn't have a great boxing record beforehand, had done nothing but talk about how manly he was, and as soon as he had to really prove it, he failed. The entire time people were giving this guy millions to teach them how to be manly and just gas him up for no reason. Only after he got put on his knees in this position did the lights turn on for his fans, and that is infuriating. You shouldn't need all that to see what is obvious. Heck, while I was writing this, Tate got into more drama in Florida, hanging out with guys like Sneeko and Nick Fuentes, the Epstein is base guy, and other controversial figures, which leads exactly what you'd think, and getting all of them banned from Miami's clubs for vibing with a song from Kanye about a certain failed German painter from the 30s. Funny thing is, Tate and his friends acted like they didn't know what was going to happen and blamed Sneeko for everything while Sneeko was actually doubling down. And that is incredibly hilarious because Sneeko is another peacock clout chaser that mauled himself after Andrew Tate, and he apparently didn't see this coming, despite the fact that all of these guys are complete selfish assholes. Sneeko is what happens when you put clout over common sense. You will eventually get burned by people just as clout hungry as you. The only thing worse than that is the kinds of peacocks that don't want to be one thing, but everything. Which leads me to someone like Asmongold. Now, if you don't know him, he was a gaming channel that would actually get bodied by tutorial bosses. He rose to be one of the most watched streamers today, although nowadays he's more known for his political takes and dives into culture wars. Now, online, he's a walking contradiction that will say anything. A third of the time, he's outright going against something he already said, the other time will be an outright lie, and the last, he just cops out by saying he doesn't know much about blank, but then continues to talk. He is a guy that no one should take seriously about anything, but unfortunately so many people do. Just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, here's a bunch of clips of his that cover a range of topics.
Not that at all. And as Joran Mandami is expected to require all New York elementary school students to learn Arabic numerals? This is happening faster than I thought. Oh my god damn. Give me a minute. Ugh. These are my actual viewpoints on being trans. I actually tremendously empathize with trans people, and while I don't think that you can change your gender, you genuinely, you can't. Like, it's not biologically possible yet. I'm willing to affirm a person's identity as long as it's the opposite gender. I'm not going to affirm a third identity. I'm not going to affirm a fake gender. But if somebody wants to dress, act, and behave like a female and then, you know, want to be treated that way, I'm willing to play along with that because I just want to have a harmonious society with as little friction as possible. For me to preserve the relationship that I had with my child than for me to uphold a viewpoint that is, you know, to me, really inconsequential. I don't care what gender somebody thinks they are or not, because that's not what defines a human being. Like, you have, at that point, 20 years of life experience with this person. This person is you know, you made this person. No, of course I wouldn't throw that away over some fucking bullshit pronoun thing. Absolutely not. And by the way, her brother hasn't either, and neither has she. The funniest thing about this is that they all agree with this. They do. You're a hypocrite? No, I'm not. I'm actually not. Like, I'm the only person that's not a hypocrite.
the heavy-handed redaction that they did to the first tranche of data that they were forced to release, even though that was also in violation of the act that was passed.
Exactly. It
so
was.
my question, and I'm sure everyone else's question here, is what are the next steps here?
It's the articles of impeachment, right?
There are a few steps. First of all, obviously, impeachment is on the table.
Yes.
For Ken Bundy.
Yes.
There is criminal prosecution. That was the whole point of the release, and not a single person. We don't have any single information about someone who was engaged in the abuse or cover up of the abuse beyond Maxwell and Epstein, and that's why this thing is a farce, and that's why Massey and I are upping the ante, saying we will use all our powers.
That's
whether
right.
It's inherent contempt,
Old Testament,
whether it is impeachment,
yes,
whether
everything.
It's referral for prosecution.
See, this is what I've wanted.
The reality is,
should do this with everything.
Massey and I have been effective
on
this issue because we have cracked the MAGA coalition, because it's bipartisan, because we're taking on a corrupt system.
The only person who cracked it was Trump.
This is a corrupt system that has
That's
led
what I
to
think.
And do the right thing for the survivors by releasing the files. The president himself has said that he has.
This is what's going to sound crazy. I think that releasing the files won't matter. Because unless it has the names in it that people think are in it, everybody is going to think the files are a lie. You said this already? I did. If they release the files and it doesn't say Donald Trump is a pedophile, and it doesn't say Bill Clinton is a pedophile, and it doesn't say Bill Gates is a pedophile, people will think that the files are edited and they are inauthentic. The public has already convinced itself of the reality of this.
Done nothing wrong, then release the files, because we know for a fact that there are many.
And again, I think the reason why that happened is because of Trump. Trump destroyed the public's trust in this issue, and he has effectively killed this issue.
Okay, so how much of that can you actually trust? Because he said things that have contradicted all of these things. Now, according to Asmongold, he was serious about the trans thing, the bit about the Arabic alphabet was a troll, and the being a critical Trump was just a straight-up lie. And actually, let's start with the lie. The idea he's been critical of Trump is just BS. He's only critical when it's convenient. Like, this one specifically came out of a video where he was clearly going after Trump for defending people on the Epstein list, which he is now officially on. On the campaign trail, Trump was promising to release these Epstein files, but then failed to do so as soon as he got into office, and then clearly was trying to sweep it under the rug. There is no good way to spin that, so clearly Asmongold went after him for it.
Well, the reason why, and here's the real reason, is that they weaponize the Epstein files not because they care about justice for the victims, but it's to use it for political capital so they can have the moral upper hand against Donald Trump so they can keep importing illegal aliens. They don't care about the women that are being raped and killed by Jeffrey Epstein. If they cared about women being raped and killed, they'd want to get rid of illegal aliens too, but they don't. So it's just very weird to me. It's like, basically, politics right now, these are the two decisions that you have. Do you want to have young girls raped and killed by pedophile elites? Or do you want to have young girls raped and killed by illegal aliens?
And that's really the thing. The criticism only seems to happen after something damaging happens. Because directly after that, he was not critical of anything Trump was doing. At this point, Marjorie Taylor Greene has been more consistently critical of Trump than Asmongold. Take the most recent news involving the invasion of Venezuela and threatening to attack more, including Greenland, as well as the ongoing ICE invasion of Minneapolis. His own fans called him out during a stream for switching his stances on foreign intervention for Venezuela.
Cuba's days are numbered. Colombia isn't going to be doing this anymore. Okay, yeah, I could see there's definitely a trend here. You specifically said you'd be against foreign intervention and nation building. Why have you switched positions? Well, I'm generally against it, but there are some instances where I'd be okay with it. It's pretty simple. Like, I think it's something that's generally a bad idea, but if we can get enough money out of the place that we're intervening in, and we can effectively make it worthwhile for us, then I'd be okay with it. Does that make sense? So it's all about whether we're making money off of it.
Not the first time he switched on the topic either. Before, he was hard against intervention, even with the war in Ukraine, which was started by Russia invading said country. Asmongold said he wanted peaceful solutions. He even begs his audience not to blame all Russians for the actions of their leaders. also making a parallel to the Middle East.
Basically, and even now, right, is you have a lot of people who are from the Middle East. They're not maybe politically aligned with the Middle East. They might not even really live in the Middle East anymore. But people blame any individual person for what, some terrorists did that live in the Middle East. And this is what happens. And I hope this does not happen again with Russians here. And I want to make sure that this is very clear. While I'm sure that there are a lot of Russians that do support Putin, these are people who are okay with the idea of the war. They say, fuck Ukraine, we hate Ukraine, let's bomb them. I'm sure there's plenty of Russians that are like that. However, please, guys, please do not go out and take your frustrations out on the Russian government, on some random fucking guy that lives in Russia. Please do not do that. Like, I've seen comments like that. I've seen negative shit like that towards, like, these different random-ass people. The fact is that it's the same as in the U.S. Do you think that I wanted them to bomb random fucking places in Syria and other kinds of countries? No, I didn't want that.
Which could not be said about his Palestinians video, when he posted a video saying they should die because their culture is just inferior and made them violent. Thus, we needed to bomb them.
No, I didn't want that. If you want to consider a genocide as a systematic killing of a group of people, they have genocide built into Sharia law right now. So no, I'm not going to cry a fucking river when people who have genocide that's baked into their laws are getting genocided. I don't give a fuck. They're terrible people. It's not even a question. It's crazy that people don't see it that way. They'd be doing the same thing. And how much did they kill? As many as they can. They're not able to kill as many people as Israel because they don't have as many bombs and as many weapons. But if they did, they'd be doing the same thing. That's it. Just takes enough. That's right. These people are not your allies. They are not the same as us. They come from an inferior culture that is horrible. It kills people for their identity, and it is directly antithetical to everything Western values stand for, and it is an inferior culture in all ways. It is that simple.
That video actually got him banned from Twitch, and after his ban from Twitch, for that, he had a quote-unquote coming to Jesus moment.
General, basically opinions that were trivializing the genocide that's happening there. And I don't really want to, like, mince words or, like, try to, like, oh, I wasn't justifying or, promoting it. I said something about it that was disgusting. And I think that my problem and my fault here was that I was making a criticism of religious extremism, and I made no effort. And I feel like almost, I've rewatched the clip, right? Or a number of the clips. And it's like I've almost made an effort not to draw a distinction between the two things. I think that a lot of us here can easily say that we're against religious extremism. And I am. But whenever I categorize everybody in the area as this, like, group, then I'm the asshole. And I was the asshole. I had a lot of you guys tell me that. And it's taken me, this is what's so crazy about it, is that I think this has been going on now for like 2 years. I think that I've been slowly devolving into the most mean-spirited, I don't really even know what the word is for it. Just like the most mean-spirited, rude, like nasty, like just callous, psychopathic version of myself. I feel so stupid. It's crazy. So I'm getting all these people making negative comments toward me. Everybody is telling me like, oh, go kill yourself. I hate you. Everything like this. Do you know who reached out to me? And they wanted to talk and have a conversation and see if I was okay. It's people that were Islamic and people that were had fucking family in Palestine. And how humiliating is that? How absolutely humiliating is that? And these were the people I was trying to say were bad. And I feel like such a fucking stupid asshole.
After which he started criticizing Israel more, even going after Republicans for their support of the state. He even just started blaming them for crap like the Epstein files that were released in 2026 because, why not? It's not like the other people in the files could/would have said no to the human trafficker, and Israel just got lucky nobody ratted him out for over 30 freaking years. The whole time, guys like Sneeko, the known Holocaust denier with a grandmother that apparently survived said Holocaust, cheered this line of thought on.
This is the way the Jew make money.
It sounds anti-Semitic, but it's literally coming from Jeffrey Epstein. selling short the shipping futures, let the goyim deal in the real world. Let the goy work while we selling short the shipping futures. They basically make money from finance while the goyim do all the heavy lifting.
And made a fortune in the past 10 years selling short the shipping futures. Let the goyim deal in the real world.
Goy lives matter. GLM. Asmongold's GLM.
Oh my fucking God.
GLM.
Epstein also kept blackmail on former Israel prime ministers, which is kind of weird to do to your boss. Instead of just saying he switched sides willy-nilly for Trump, he claimed he had an exception to that position. It's that he only cared for it if you didn't get anything out of the intervention. Okay, so now my question is, if Israel had paid in advance, you wouldn't have made those videos criticizing Israel or Republicans for taking money from Israel? Do all those complaints you brought up not matter if the USA gets something? And most likely not the entire United States, just the elites. Because that is kind of what happened with the last, well, every time the states have done this recently. It really seems like a dumb exception to make, because you sound like a selfish hypocrite saying it out loud, and the hypocrisy doesn't stop there. Zach would go on saying that the country that they just invaded now had better resources, and they in fact brought freedom and stability to the region, and that they would no longer be selling drugs and be a warning to other countries like Cuba. He had been on that kick for a while now, actually making claims Trump's tough-on-crime stick was actually working, more specifically his crackdown on immigration, almost parroting the whole administration word per word at times. And that is all bullcrap. Maduro's vice president is now in charge despite there being a more popular opposition leader, who literally tried to bribe her way into power by giving Trump her Nobel Peace Prize. Trump's own State Department is warning Americans not to go to Venezuela due to the gangs attacking them, and the oil company Trump's met with before he invaded, like Exxon, have said they aren't willing to make an investment to such an unstable region, leading him to go to other oil companies that are, let's say, sketchy. Trump himself even pardoned a well-known drug kingpin, the former president of Honduras, right before he invaded Venezuela. Something Marjorie Taylor Greene even brought up in her "F you, I'm out" post to Congress. And a lot of conservatives themselves hate the idea of more intervention and putting troops in danger just for oil. Even people Asmongold listened to, like Nick Fuentes, have had to do complete 180s back and forth on this due to the backlash he keeps getting, and then tried to go back and act like he was against boots on the ground from the start and was only excited for the oil they would get, which even his fans didn't buy, because how else would they get the resources out if it's not protected or have any money spent on it to build said infrastructure? And of course Nick switched again, and I'd say that was the dumbest thing to do, but then he later came out in defense of Epstein, who he now thinks is based, because Trump is also in the files along with everybody else that he was supposed to hate.
This whole pedo thing, it's like, is it really pedophilia? I don't want to be the one that has to say it, but I guess I'm being forced to say it. It's not really pedophilia, okay?
So basically, the dude's just doing 180s for the administration. And by the way, Nick Fuentes is also a guy Asmongold gets news from. Nothing I've said here is any way critical of Trump, even though, again, you really should be, because he just keeps lying to your face and you keep buying it like an idiot. I'm specifically talking to you, Asmongold, if by chance you see this. And these exemptions to Asmongold's own rules are going to be a running theme here, but the thing that disturbs me the most is just how theatrical he'll be in one video and completely relaxed the next. Like the first Palestinian video, he was just nonchalantly talking about murder based on culture, and only after he got in trouble did he apologize, crying on camera, despite having zero emotion when talking about it just a week before. And again, that's just disturbing. How you can do that. And that's not the only time either where this has kinda happened. He has the same mentality when it comes to people he either hasn't met or doesn't like. For instance, after Charlie Kirk's death, he would make multiple videos reacting horrified by the responses he saw on Twitter, even teaming up with Grums to track down certain people celebrating his death, intent on seeing them fired. And literally just a few months later, at the shooting of Miss Good in Minneapolis, he replied on Twitter, "R.I.P. Bozo," again, when all he had to go on was that first original video. This guy was literally trying to get people fired and then did the exact same thing without knowing shit. Actually, let's take a look at that story, as there is a lot of misinformation out there due to the story becoming political somehow. And I'm using political in air quotes here, as even a lot of conservatives don't agree with how Asmongold and ICE was framing the whole story here.
These are people that like answered an ad on Craigslist. I mean, these people, who is joining I mean, these people are so shocked The people who are joining ICE are so shot. You know, they don't have anything going on. These are people who like a mole throughout because they couldn't do like security at a mall.
I see the perspective of the people that say, hey, there was an illegal program moving people in here to get votes, moving people in here to get congressional seats, and we've got to change that. I can also see the point of view of the people that say, yeah, but you don't want militarized people in the streets just roaming around, snatching people up, many of which turn out to actually be U.S. citizens that just don't have their papers on them. Are we really going to be the Gestapo? Where's your papers? Is that what we've come to?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, Nick, because of camera phones now, so much of this stuff we can analyze for ourselves. I think that when you see J.D. Vance, Donald Trump and others, and they try and tell us something that we just haven't seen with our own eyes, in other words, they want us to look at a video in a way that just doesn't represent what we watched. No one can convince me that what we saw there was a woman whose demeanor leading up to that was intent on causing harm to that officer and who then wanted to run him over. I've just seen nothing that shows that. Now, if it did, I would say so. I think part of the problem with these stories is everyone takes their partisan political position to its extremity immediately, almost as a defensive mechanism. In other words, the left immediately took the position, right, this is obvious, clear evidence the ICE are a bunch of Nazis and they murdered her in cold blood and blah, blah, blah. And then the people on the right immediately go the opposite way. This woman brought it on herself. She's a radicalized left-wing lunatic. She's a lesbian. She's this, she's that. And I think all of that is wrong. All of that distorts the debate about what happened here, which is, I think, everybody made mistakes. She shouldn't have behaved the way that she did. He shouldn't have done what he did.
The whole thing transpired in under a minute. What we do know is that Miss Good was in the middle of the street blocking ICE cars, although she was letting other cars by. Officer Ross, who was the one who did the shooting, was circling the car filming it with his cell phone, while Good's wife did the same thing, and then another ICE officer pulled up in a van, got out, and went straight to Mrs. Good's car door, attempting to open the door, even reaching through the open window. Good's wife yelled, "Drive, baby, drive," as Ross pulls out his gun. Good turns the tires away from the officer, trying to get away from the other officer at the door. Ross fires twice as the car seems to graze him, barely, as he's taken a step back and shot yet another time, causing the car to speed up and crash. A physician on the scene tries to help, but the ICE officers won't let him pass, as Ross is seen walking over to the car. That will be important later. Remember that. The thing really goes off the rails as the head of ICE, Kristi Noem, gave a false retelling of events where Good was attempting to run over multiple officers when she saw them stuck on the side of the road, despite the fact we see her parked in the middle of the road, not moving, and then the ICE officer literally had to walk in front of her car. Something she was called out for on CNN of all places. They also seem to exaggerate the officer's injuries, saying he was admitted to the hospital with internal bleeding, despite the fact we see him walking around the scene just fine, and then people found out the hospital discharged him the same day he was admitted. Before anyone asks, yes, blocking the traffic intentionally is still a crime, but not one worthy of death. The officer also broke protocol by walking in front of the car, the dumbest place to be, and firing at the driver is also something officers are taught not to do. Instead, go for the tires, as shooting the driver will only speed up the car, as the person who is shot weight will go straight down onto the gas pedal. And a lot more have even showed the guidelines for ICE that showed them specifically being told they shouldn't do that. Asmongold, though, defended everything the administration has said, even arguing that the cop needed to be in front of the car to shoot her and thus stop the car. Which is just stupid because, one, they were clearly lying the first time the story broke, and we literally see it didn't stop the car. Also, no, he didn't even need to be in front of the car to shoot her. Something I can't believe I have to say. If you are a fan of Asmongold's and need a visual example, here's a guy demonstrating just that as a counter to him.
And you can see right here, if the cop wasn't in front of the vehicle, then he wouldn't have been able to make this shot. There it is. It's pretty fucking obvious. Yep, it's pretty fucking obvious.
Rat fuck.
None of this happened in a vacuum either. Before that even took place, ICE had been caught arresting legal immigrants like the guy in Alabama who sued them because he picked him up twice while working. There was also that debacle at a Hyundai plant where they were arrested hundreds of Koreans that were brought here to teach people in America how to build these cars, sparking an international incident even, where Trump had to apologize to the Korean government. They even shot another woman who survived the shooting in Chicago. ICE said they also tried to run over ICE agents and would be prosecuted only to drop the case as soon as the cameras were gone, and onto Trump's next controversy. Oh yeah, then there was that memo that told ICE to ignore the Fourth Amendment and just break into people's houses at will, which I'm sure leads to nothing horrible happening ever or a mistaken case of identity. That ain't even the tip of the iceberg either. So just know, they have been doing all sorts of dumb shit for the past year straight. Every stinking week, there is another story of ICE doing something stupid. So clearly taking whatever they say at face value would be dumb. Well, not for Asmongold. And again, make no mistake, this isn't a left versus right issue either. Everyone from Joe Rogan, Piers Morgan, Tim Dillon have condemned this shooting. Other big channels like Moist Critical, Legal Eagle, and CoffeeZilla have also covered these stories where ICE is going completely bonkers, and they aren't exactly charitable to ICE's reasonings either. Even other channels like Hank's Greens, a science channel, and Delta Trion, a small Transformers channel, have talked about it with shock and horror. Something Asmongold may have been paying attention to, as about a week later, yeah, unsurprisingly, there were more incidents, like arresting a 5-year-old boy and then using him as bait. Home invasions by ICE, oh yeah, that violating the whole Fourth Amendment thing turns out did in fact have consequences, as they busted into the house of a guy looking for a sex offender who was already in jail. And the worst of all, there was another shooting in Minneapolis. This time, it was a man named Alex Preddy, a nurse that worked for the VA. Literally a guy helping veterans. Jesus Christ. He was caught on camera defending a woman from ICE when 6 of them pepper sprayed him and jumped him, beating him to the ground over the head repeatedly, even taking his legally owned firearm, which was stashed in his back holster, before someone yelled gun, and then shot him dead. One shot him in the back while the others jumped away, and 2 others pulled out their guns and fired while he was on the ground dead. ICE again said he was threatening them with his gun and protecting a violent illegal immigrant. You know, this 4-foot-tall woman, and this gun that he did not have out, and was again taken off of him before he was shot.
You can see he has his phone in his hand, and at no point during this interaction did he ever, pull a gun on them or anything. And in fact, in one of the angles, you can even clearly see that the agents actually took the gun from him prior to him being shot. You can actually see what looks to be one of the agents disarming him, taking the gun out of its holster and running away with the gun prior to him being shot.
Asmongold, though, surprisingly didn't buy the story this time. Kinda. He did call out the cops who shot Preddy.
That is the gun, 100%. And then they shoot him. If they disarm this guy, I'm going to be honest. If they disarmed this guy and then they shot him, yeah, they executed him.
But also, he spent most of that video blaming everybody else. He even blamed Alex for not complying with them, protesting, and having a legal firearm, which he never drew, and was even taken from him before he was shot. All things, by the way, that are completely legal in the United States.
I mean, again, I don't know how anybody thinks doing this is going to result in a positive outcome. Regardless of whether the agent was in the right or not for shooting him, the guy is still dead. And I think it's such a huge mistake that you don't have more people, and more people in general, just going out and saying, hey, stop going out and listening to not listening to the police and being aggressive towards them. Honestly, I think the officer handled that pretty well right there. You know, they just push the guy. They say, okay, that's fine. You want to record us? Just get off the street. I feel like that's very reasonable, honestly. That's extremely reasonable. There's nothing really wrong about that at all. But it seems like nobody here was being violent. This isn't really a big problem at all. Anyone with a concealed carry knows you should always comply with police, announce your weapon, and de-escalate all potentially dangerous situations, at least in my state. The guy intentionally gets in the way and involved in an escalating situation. Absolutely retarded behavior from a concealed carrier. I think you're totally right. I do. I think you're completely right. I think this is absolutely fucking retarded to do. And at the end of the day, if he had complied with the police, if he didn't have the gun with him, like, there is a much higher probability that he wouldn't have been shot.
Then, when another video surfaced of Alex protesting ICE and kicked a taillight, he did a complete 180 on even the small pushback he did make of ICE. But back to the first video, he even blamed Democrats for inflaming the situation, making people violent. Also, they can import immigrants to pump up their numbers and gain more people in the House of Representatives.
Not even once have they ever said that. That's the reason why I think they're the ones that are at fault. Is that they intentionally create inflammatory rhetoric to gas people up into being violent, and then once they're violent, then they say, oh wow, look how horrible this is. Yeah, it's happening because you're allowing it to happen. You're gassing this up, and you're basically telling them that all of this stuff is happening, and then they're going out there and acting on it. That's the problem. That's the issue right there. Like, they could shut this down immediately if they just had the police go out there and work with ICE and arrest the people that are being violent towards ICE. They're not using the National Guard or the police in any sort of a way that's proactive to prevent these situations from happening. They're letting these situations happen to ICE, and they're basically using federal officers and their own people as effectively kindling to start this fire. That's what they're doing. They don't care about the people that are being killed. If they cared about the people being killed, they'd tell them not to be violent and interrupt and physically impede a federal officer. This is a common sense reality that anybody who cares about you would tell you. Anybody who actually cares about your well-being, the first thing they would say is stop going out there and being violent and aggressive towards a federal officer. The only thing that they care about is using these deaths as political capital so they can advance their agenda of bringing in a bunch of illegal aliens and then allowing those people to be in the state and then be counted on the census to give them more political power in the House of Representatives, and to also eventually have their kids become voters because they're being born here as citizens. That's the end goal that they have. And any Republican that's going along with them is just signing basically the execution of the possibility of them ever getting anything done.
And coincidentally, this just happens to be the same excuse the administration has been using to justify all the crap they have been doing with ICE. Something kind of disputed by the fact that Trump won the popular vote by taking Hispanic support away from the Democrats, along with the House and Senate, as well as the fact the population of blue states like California and New York have been dropping over the last decade due to the high rise in living costs causing people to move out, thus losing support in the House of Representatives. Kind of the exact opposite that Asmongold is claiming is happening. Not to mention the fact Republicans are currently losing in bright red districts like Louisiana, Texas, and Florida, in districts Trump won by double digits just a year ago. While Trump's deportation department has been in full swing and hasn't been taking a lot of applications from other countries, even putting that on hold recently, this whole theory of Asmongold's falls apart the moment you put any real thought or research into it. But again, here's the funnier thing. Trump has been doing all the same crap and has been doing it. Trump has even been called out by Zach before, specifically over the election denial that he kept doing, which led to January 6th.
No, as like I don't think you should get banned for questioning the election. However, I also don't think you should be taken seriously either. Like, I think it's just stupid, right? I mean, my mom would like go on and on and on about how the election was stolen. I always thought it was total bullshit, right? I'm going to be honest. I did. I thought it was total bullshit. All the evidence I've ever seen, complete bullshit. And to be fair, the only evidence that I've really seen of anybody trying to rig things is fucking Trump last time, right? Saying, find me votes. Where the fuck are you going to find them? Right? That's not really a good way to say, make sure that you count them in the right way. So that's the way I see it.
And the contradictions just keep getting worse with far less time in between. Like, this guy was literally saying Don Lemon covering a protest of a pastor working for ICE and was later arrested for it is a go around and find out moment. While same week defended Jake Lang, who Asmongold made him out to be a victim. And if you don't know who Jake Lang is, He's a guy known for going into Muslim neighborhoods and burning their holy texts after wrapping them in bacon, along with other stunts in minority communities specifically designed to get a violent reaction. And yet, just to be clear, you can criticize Don Lemon for his actions. Guys like Valhalla VFT have done that. You know what he didn't do? Defend an even worse a-hole for doing the same thing he accused Lemon of, but worse, the very next day. In fact, the exact opposite is what happens. And that's what we like to call consistency. He didn't just flip-flop to pander to one specific side, he instead stood by his standard. And that's the other thing that gets me. Zach isn't stupid. He knows Trump is a liar, that he has lied, and has called him out for that, but will also just go along with one of the most obvious lies he keeps telling people, for no good reason other than to pander. And after all that, you may still confuse Asmongold for a right-wing grifter. But no, he has no problem switching on Trump when it's for things like Epstein and when ICE gets too much backlash. And he has no problem trying to virtue signal to the other side, like how he keeps flip-flopping on trans or LGBTQ people. Zach, repeatedly in his videos on trans issues, is doing some doublespeak, just like he did for Alex Preddy. For instance, he says he doesn't believe in their plight, but also says he has empathy for them at the exact same time.
These are my actual viewpoints on being trans. I actually tremendously empathize with trans people. And while I don't think that you can change your gender, you genuinely, you can't. Like, it's not biologically possible yet. I'm willing to affirm a person's identity as long as it's the opposite gender. I'm not going to affirm a third identity. I'm not going to affirm a fake gender. But if somebody wants to dress, act, and behave like a female and then, you know, want to be treated that way, I'm willing to play along with that because I just want to have a harmonious society with as little friction as possible. This is what I think. And if you don't think this, I'm not going to make you think this. This is what I think. I have a tremendous amount of empathy for trans people, and the reason why I do is because when I lost my teeth, I looked at myself in the mirror, and I didn't recognize the kind of person that I was, and I hated the way I looked.
In the past, he has even said he would accept his own son being trans, despite not believing in it if all else would fail, because that relationship is more important to him.
I get to make adult choices, and at the end of the day, it would be more important for me to preserve the relationship that I had with my child than for me to uphold a viewpoint that is, you know, to me, really inconsequential. I don't care what gender somebody thinks they are or not, because that's not what defines a human being. Like, you have, at that point, 20 years of life experience with this person. This person is you know, you made this person. No, of course I wouldn't throw that away over some fucking bullshit pronoun thing. Absolutely not. And by the way, her brother hasn't either, and neither has she. The funniest thing about this is that they all agree with this. They do. You're a hypocrite? No, I'm not. I'm actually not. Like, I'm the only person that's not a hypocrite. Yeah, that's it. Do you call your son a she? Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah, I would do it. I wouldn't want to, like, I would go through I would say, are you sure that you feel this way? And I would try to help them get through their gender dysphoria as much as possible. I would, but at the end of the road, if nothing else worked, I would, because it matters more to me than doing that. Like, why is chat mad? Because, and this is the thing, like, and I say this every time, right?
His big sticking point on a lot of these talks, though, is that he doesn't think kids should be exposed to this. Specifically in his video covering the boycott on Netflix. You remember this? I actually brought it up in the Metatron video. Here he calls out Netflix for promoting trans ideology to kids and argues for parents' rights to be upset.
Doesn't fit who I am. My apologies. Please switch their piece.
I've seen this one before.
The plan. Of course.
So people are canceling a lot of their Netflix subscriptions. This really isn't that big of a surprise. You know, again, I think this kind of stuff is very weird. And I think also, do parents really want to have that kind of stuff in kids' stories? I mean, I don't really think so. I think it's pretty obvious. And this is also another big issue is that, like, if I was a parent and I was watching this, I would be uncomfortable just for the sheer reason that it's very obvious that they're trying to push this idea onto very, very young people, onto kids. And it's like trying to teach kids trigonometry whenever they don't understand multiplication, or they don't even understand adding and subtracting. Like, it's not that, like, the idea of being trans or non-binary, like, if somebody is like an adult and they have some idea in their mind, like, I usually generally try to respect what other people do and what they want to believe and how they want to see themselves. It's up to them, right? They're going to do what they want to do. And I'm not telling you have to accept it or anything like that. I'm just telling you, like, I don't want to get in at the end of the day, I don't want to get in an argument with somebody who thinks they're trans, trying to tell them what pronouns they need to use, okay?
Which is where I'm just going to call BS on all of this. Like, if you didn't know, Asmongold has been a huge proponent of free speech and artists' rights, specifically for things like anime and games. And if you know anything about those two things, you can probably guess where the contradiction is, as they have all had trans characters or themes in them for literal decades now. Mario has had a trans character since the second game, and Yoshi is called a boy but lays eggs. Like, you sure kids aren't going to ask questions about that? There's animes like Ranma 1/2 and Made in the Abyss, and even with shows for kids like Pokemon, Beyblade, Pokemon, Sailor Moon, and Pokemon, we still have those themes present. Asmongold even goes as far as to criticize governments, like the video about the Australian ban on kids from social media, a reaction to obvious porn and fake news on such sites not really being regulated properly by the companies themselves. Something that has only grown as more scandals take place, like the AI kitty porn scandal on Twitter. Here, Zach tries to act nuanced by saying he likes the ideas of laws and argues parents are the better solution. However, he undermines this through saying parents are overreacting and pushing the responsibility onto the companies that should be theirs. Even making the argument that he watched porn as a kid and he turned out fine, so why worry about this? He actually says the porn bit twice throughout the video.
Basically every single kid. And maybe I'm in a weird place, like here in Austin, Texas, but here, like in middle school, people were drinking and doing drugs, right? So, like, and then like, the parents aren't doing that, right? But what I'm saying is that, like, that didn't fuck me up because I didn't like doing it. And my parents raised me to not be like that. And that's just how I am. And so I think it's easy to say that you can just, ban social media. And like that is, I think, what you should do. But the true only real solution is good parenting. And hopefully you guys can understand the difference between those two things, right? Like the best real solution and the best systematic solution. I do think that there is a passing of responsibility to these social media companies parents are doing, and I think that it's unfair. If your kid is going on social media websites, that's probably the last thing that you need to be worried about that your kid's doing. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like whenever we were in middle school, we were going on all kinds of like weird porn sites and stuff like this in middle school. So like, you really think Facebook is corrosive? Like, come on, like, let's be honest. So it's like, and I guarantee you kids are doing that now. Absolutely. Because like, what do you think? Like, oh, they're different? Like, oh, wow. Like now they're not, come on.
This is how you can tell this is just the old hat trick of listen to me when I say this, while I also argue for the exact opposite throughout the rest of the video. If you think I'm kidding, just take these videos and put them side by side, and you see the obvious contradictions. If you believe the responsibility relies on the parents like in the Australia video, why join the boycott on Netflix or against the artists of the shows? I mean, can parents not change the channel on Netflix and watch something else there that doesn't deal with pronouns? Like, you don't have to watch these shows. You don't have to watch Cocomelon. You don't have to watch Paranormal Park. And you don't have to watch this Transformers show. There's like 7 of them. Go watch another Transformers show. You don't need this. You don't really need a boycott for this. And vice versa. If you believe parents can be upset over their kids seeing pronouns, why can't they also be mad at their kids being exposed to AI porn? If these pronoun things are really so bad, why not boycott anime too? Why do they get a pass if they show the exact same things? You could probably make an argument for one of these, but not all of them at once because they are obviously conflicting with each other. And this honestly reminds me a lot of Democrat politicians like Gavin Newsom and Chuck Schumer. Yeah, you remember how Gavin Newsom was making all these strong declarations on Twitter, fighting with President Trump over his border policies, etc. But the moment you sit him down in front of someone like Ben Shapiro or Charlie Kirk, he did as a complete 180. Same thing with Chuck Schumer. He makes these big statements on how he's going to shut down the government if he doesn't get these demands from President Trump. And then he immediately did the exact opposite and reopened the government without getting anything. And then immediately went on a book tour, which he then had to cancel because everybody in his base was pissed off at what he did, so he had to go on The View to explain that stuff. Did not work, but then just immediately went back on the book tour. It's just the same BS that Asmongold pulls, but with pushback for him for some reason. Asmongold is clearly playing both sides of the drama fence here, or worse, just defending people he finds helpful like Elon Musk. The backsliding even includes things that involve himself taking personal damage. The most egregious was when Elon Musk took away Asmongold's checkmark, unfollowed him, and doxed him over the Path of Exile 2 story. With that one, Elon basically got caught paying someone to level up his characters in a game to keep him at the top of the scoreboard. But when he played it during a live stream, he had no idea what he was doing, causing a lot of people to laugh at him, including Asmongold, leading to the said repercussions. Most people would see that and see an unstable man-child, and at first so did Asmongold, but also no, not Asmongold. Again, he immediately switched as soon as the story died down. He liked having one of the richest South Africans in the world as a follower of his and really wanted him back, so he started just glazing the crap out of him, thinking that a guy that would lie over a video game surely wouldn't lie about anything important. Especially his work with Doge, even though a lot of their claims had been debunked. They often confused millions with billions and counted some returns twice. On top of firing people they really shouldn't, like the guys in charge of maintaining the nukes. And Elon didn't even make it a full year before he was kicked out, leading him to saying Trump was in the Epstein files, despite knowing that he was also in the Epstein files. And again, this is not surprising from a man that would lie and dox people over a video game. He would also go on to defend him, thinking people were trying to kill him when Elon was also trying to use that excuse to get out of paying child support. None of that mattered though to Asmongold, who just went with whatever he said because he really just wanted Elon to restart retweeting him again on this platform that he owns. It was strictly a pragmatic move for his own gain. Because again, when you see that first story, when you see all the other things he's did, there is literally no reason to believe anything that comes out of his mouth. Asmongold is just pathetic. He is clearly doing things for his own personal benefit, even if it goes against his supposed standards. However, just like Tate or Schumer, it only works if you can keep that base of support happy. And that really is the most fickle thing here. Like, how many times can you go back and forth before they catch on? What happens when someone finally gives him a black eye? Or what controversy that goes south will he attach himself to like Sneeko did? Because that clout doesn't really come back once you lose it. Just ask Dr. Disrespect and Pirate Software. Once the scandal goes out, once they leave, they don't come back. Peacocking has a limit to how far you can take it, and these guys don't really have anything else to fall back on, because again, there really isn't anything there. They will just say anything, get their attention. They do not stand on a solid foundation. And I think that's where I'll end this one. Until next time, this is the Compare and Contrast channel. Like and subscribe, and let me know what you want me to talk about next.